Hello friends, welcome to Jojo's Azure Learning YouTube channel. Today in this video, we will be seeing AC 900 Azure Fundamentals Exam Certification. We'll be seeing it as 300 questions, latest questions and answers. It is fully covered. This is a part 1. Exam AC 900 is the first fundamental Microsoft Azure fundamental exam. And this is the starting point for anyone wanting to learn Microsoft Azure cloud platform, and 100% passing guarantee. Let's get started. I always recommend you just watch, you just study a lot and then take this test, and then you will be able to get through the exam. All the best. First question, which of the following is considered as SaaS, software as a service? So the options are Azure App Services, Azure ZDN, Content Delivery Network, Office 365, and Azure Virtual Machine. So you can eliminate what all things you know. If you don't know the questions, look about Azure Web Services. It's actually a PaaS service. Azure ZDN is also a PaaS service. The SaaS service is considered as a software as a service. That means completely managed by Microsoft. Azure Virtual Machine. Azure Virtual Machine is IaaS, Infrastructure as a Service, because we deploy the virtual machine. Azure Administrator manage it, patching and everything. But let's see what is the answer. Office 365. Office 365 is an example of a SaaS service, software as a service. Second question. Is it possible to have multiple resources from a different region in a single resource group? So the question we are asking is like, can we have put two resources, that part of a single resource group, but each resources are created from a different region. So you can see here in this screenshot, there is two resources. One resource is ADVM01, that's a virtual machine that's located in East US region, and you can see there is a storage account, STGGHS001 storage account, that is also in the same resource group. You can see AD Infra, both are the same resource group, but it is two different region. One is in East US and one is in South Central. So is it possible? Yes. Is it possible to have multiple? We can have many resources created in one in East US, one in Central US, and so on. It doesn't matter. Question number 3. Company A wants to deploy just 50 to 100 lines of code into Azure with less cost. What is the following suits this requirement? It's 50 to 100 lines of code is considered as a very small code, like a small, you cannot run a very big application with 50, 100 lines of code. It's a small code that you can run it without any much cost. Azure Logic Apps, Azure Virtual Machine, Azure Batch Services, Azure Functions. So you can see Azure Logic Apps is the workflow diagram that you can do, if condition this doesn't work, go this and things like that. Virtual Machine is, you can have the code installed, but it's actually not a less cost. Azure Batch Services, that's used in a parallel jobs to run a parallel job. So what is the answer to this question? Azure Functions. So remember, if you wanted to use a little bit of code into Azure with less cost, Azure Functions is the answer. The fifth question, your Azure subscription has many storage accounts. As you are the Azure administrator, as to provide read-only access to one storage account. So which of the following that allow you to accomplish this? So you have the subscription as a many storage account, and you just want to give access to one storage account, specific access. Is the Azure AD management is answer? Azure RBAC, conditional access policy, Azure Bastion. So if you can think that you can eliminate some of the answer, right? Conditional access policy. It is like, conditionally giving access to user sign in. So that may not be an Azure. Azure Bastion. Azure Bastion is to, not opening the port RDP access, or you don't want to open ports outside somebody to access the virtual machine. So it's not talking about, it is talking about storage account. The storage account you wanted to give an access. Let's see what is the answer. Azure RBAC. RBAC stands for role-based access control. So in Azure subscription, there are a lot of roles. So you can there's inbuilt roles: contributor, owner, storage account contributor, storage account reader. So probably the specific answer to this question is assign a Azure RBAC role-based access control. That should be a storage account reader access. There is a inbuilt role. That should be the answer. Let's go back to the next question. Could administrator wants to use a solution in Azure that can be used to manage and scale container-based applications? Which of the following is considered as a service that meets the above requirement? So the answers are Azure Service Bus, Azure DevOps, Azure Virtual Machine Scale Set, Azure Kubernetes. So let's see what it's a container services. It's the service that based container based applications. So the answer to this question is Azure Kubernetes. The question number 7. Company A is looking to migrate data of 75 terabyte by an accelerator secure one-time data transfer in a quick, inexpensive and reliable way where network connectivity is limited. What below options will accomplish this? So it's saying that it's a large data. It's around 75 terabyte and the network connectivity is limited. It doesn't have much good network connectivity. It's like express route or anything like that. So what options you can actually accomplish? The answers is the options are Azure Databox, Azure Migrate, DMS, Database Migration System, Azure Express Route. Azure Migrate is like to lift and shift. You migrate on-prem to Hyper-V or virtual machine to Azure. DMS is just the database migration system from the on-prem SQL Server to Azure SQL database instance. Express Route is the dedicated bandwidth. Okay, so let's see what is the answer to these questions. Azure Databox. So Azure Databox, you can migrate a large amount of data. 75 terabyte is a very big amount of data, and is also saying one time. So it's like a box. You can actually transfer the data into that data box, and you can ship it to Azure region, one of the region, and they will transfer the data. So it's a one time where the network connectivity is limited. Going back to next question. Question number 8. Company A has policy that no users are allowed to use their company-owned laptop outside the United States when accessing the Azure portal. So company is setting a policy that, let's say you have the laptop, company provided you a laptop and you are working in United States and you want to go to visit India or you want to go for a vacation in and then United States is considered a trusted location and any user logins outside United States are blocked. You want to block the sign-in attempt to Azure portal when either of the above condition fails. How do you accomplish this? The key word here is either of the above condition fails and also the user logins. So the options are Active Directory group policy. The Active Directory group policy can be deployed but not to block user logins if they travel to outside United States. Azure Security Center. Azure Security Center is, it cannot block you. It will give you the security awareness. And PIM. PIM is a privileged identity management that is just-in-time access. Let's say you want to give privileged access management to a user. They are a contributor or in Azure. They wanted to access. They can just activate that role for like a certain time, like 2 to 3 minutes or maybe like 6 hours they can access. That's why PIM comes in. Then conditional access. I guess you might have already got the answer, but let's see who got the answer right. Answer to this question, conditional access. Question number 9. Company A is hosting an application in Azure. The application connects to a database in Azure. Company wants to use database password is in a secure location. You recommend that Microsoft Security Center for the Cloud for password store. So basically, the company has an application. It doesn't want to store the database password as a SQL username and password in the application code. You wanted to store it in a Microsoft Security Center for the cloud, that password. What's the answer? Is a yes or no questions? What is the answer to the question? So the answer to the question is no. So you actually don't store the password. The password, secret, and keys and everything will be stored in Azure Key Vault. So always remember, if you want to securely store the password, that will be Key Vault. So answer to this question is no. Going to the next question. The question number 10. This company A is hosting an application in Azure. The application connects to a database in Azure. Company wants to use the database password in a secure location. You recommend that Azure SQL database for a password store. So it wants to use the database for the password store. Answer to the question. Let's check. Always store the password in the Key Vault. So you can imagine what will be the answer to the question. And the answer is no. So going to the 11th question. The dash provides a unique namespace for your Azure storage data that's accessible from anywhere in the world over HTTP or HTTPS. So they have some storage data in somewhere, and they want to access through HTTP, through HTTP or HTTPS. Data is durable and highly available, secure and massively scalable. The options are Azure Data Lake, Azure Data Box, Azure Storage Account, and Cosmos DB. Storage account. As you know that storage account, you can do HTTP, HTTPS. If you have blob container, you can actually access through HTTP or HTTPS, and it is highly scalable, massively scalable. There is no limitation how much data you can store in a storage account. So going to the next question. Company A has a newly started using Azure Cloud. They just started using the cloud, Azure Cloud, and wants to create users. Where exactly the users are created in Azure? Is it in Azure App Services, Azure Advisor, Azure Active Directory, and Azure Security Center? So where is the identity management for the Azure? That is a question. So where the users, when you apply, if you already created a subscription, you have a subscription, where do you actually create it? Where do you go to create any users and groups? So the question, what will be the answer to this question? Azure Active Directory. That's correct. Azure Active Directory is the identity management. Question number 13. Company A wants to mount mapped network drives from Azure from their Windows 10 computers. Which of the following will accomplish this requirement? So they just want to use, they just want to map the drive and then use it some data. So what will be the actual options available? What will be that accomplish this requirement? Azure Databricks, Azure SQL Database, Azure Storage Account File Service, Azure Storage Account Blob Service. So what will be the answer to this question? So the answer to the question is file service. You need to mention compare between the Azure Storage Account, file service, or blob service. The blob service is basically you can access it through HTTP or HTTPS. You cannot map the drive. If you want to map the drive, you can use the file service. You need to have an SMB, session message protocol. So the answer to the question is Azure Storage Account, file service. The question number 14. Company A has a Azure virtual machine running IIS, Internet Information Service, running on a web application on port 443. Users should access the application over internet. You propose a solution to modify network security group. Does this solve this issue? So basically it has got an Azure virtual machine and there is an IIS installed and there is a web application running on port 443. So users will be accessing that application over internet, HTTPS. And you propose a solution to modify network security group, but does this solve this issue? Answer to this question is yes. So you just have to open the port to public or so that anybody can access the that, and the virtual machine has to have a public IP address, and we need to allow port 443 through network security group. The next question, question number 15. Company A has many departments and using Azure services. Company should be able to use a different payment option for the amount that each department they consume for their Azure services. Which of the following will accomplish this requirement? Azure policy, tagging, resource group, and subscription. The key word here is different payment option. So if you have to have a different payment option for their Azure services. So how you can accomplish this requirement? So the answer to this question is subscription. So if you create a subscription, you'll be the owner and you'll be an account administrator and you'll be able to put your payment method like a credit card. If you're a pay as you go, you need to put your credit card. And if you are getting another subscription, another person can put the credit card in. So only way to have the keyword here is a different payment option. Is that then is a subscription is the answer. So answer to this question is subscription. So next question is question number 16. A management group tree can support up to dash levels of depth. So the options are 3, 4, 5, 6. So how many levels of depth it can go in the management group? So the management group and then it is the subscription and then each subscription level, how many levels of depth it can go. I have put a screenshot here. I can see that it is clearly mentioned in the Microsoft documentation. 6 is the answer. So the management group tree can support up to 6 levels of depth. So the answer to the question is 6. So going to the next question, question number 17. Is archive tier is set at storage account level? So they have to put a screenshot here. There is a STG GHS001. There is a storage account. And if you go to the under settings blade and the configuration, you can change to the probe access tier into cool or hot. There is no option. There is no option to select archive. So it cannot be selected at the storage account level. So just what will be the answer to this one? This cannot be set in the storage account level. Answer to the question is no. The next question. Is cool or hot access tier is good for long-term backup? So we're talking about long-term backup. Long-term backup is considered basically maybe more than 2 years or more than 1 year, something like that. So, and there is a 3 offers. You can see the screenshot here. Hot access tier, optimized for storing data that is frequently accessed. That's hot. But you have to pay for the higher price for that. The cool access tier is it's not very frequently accessed, but at least for 30 days. And the archive access tier is the very low cost option. It is appropriate for data that is rarely accessed and stored for at least for 180 days. It's like 6 months with a flexible latency requirement. Like for an example, long-term backup. So when it comes to storage account, long-term backup, archive is the solution. Okay, so is cool or hot access tier is good time for long? Is the answer to this? No. The archive access tier is good for long-term backup. So answer to the question is no. The question number 19. What operating system that Azure VM supports? So if you already have a subscription and you are a free trial account, you install, you deployed a virtual machine, what also operating system it can support? Linux, Sun Solaris, Windows and Linux, Mac OS and Windows. So what is the correct answer to the question? I guess you got the correct answer. Let's find out. Answer to this question is Windows or Linux. So these two operating system is possible. Microsoft initially was not allowing to do Linux on the Azure, if you guys know in the Azure history, but later on they allow Windows and Linux together. So Azure VM we can deploy Windows and Linux as well. Linux different flavors, Ubuntu, Red Hat Linux and everything. So answer to the question is Windows and Linux. Next question is question number 20. Your company wants to use hybrid identity model and deploy users to have their password sync between the local Active Directory to Azure Active Directory. What tool can be used to achieve this? The options are Azure B2B, business to business, Azure Sync Tool, Azure AD Connect, Azure B2C, business to consumer. So the is asking how to sync a data hybrid identity model. I have another video set up so you can easily answer this question. I think you guys have got this one correct. Answer to this question is Azure AD Connect. Going to the next question is question number 21. Is Azure Web Apps is considered as a platform as a service? Yes. The virtual machine, if you put an IaaS on it and running as a web application, that is considered IaaS, infrastructure as a service. But if you are deploying no virtual machine, just in a web application, web apps, then the answer to the question is S. So the PaaS, an example, web apps in Azure is an example because there is no operating system is to manage, no backup to manage, automatically it can scalable. So the answer to this question is yes, Azure Web App is a PaaS. The question number 22. A command line utility that can use to copy blobs or file to or from your storage account and also upload files, download files, copy files between storage accounts, even synchronize files. It can even be configured to work with the other cloud providers to help move files back and forth between clouds. Please select the best answer for this scenario. Answers are Robocopy and rsync, azcopy and itersync. So the best answer to the question is azcopy. So azcopy is the command line utility, and actually Robocopy is also a command line utility. rsync is also command line utility. Itersync is not on a command line. It is a GUI, graphical user interface, GUI based tool that can copy. So between the storage account, whenever it comes to copy in a storage account, you can do azcopy, copy, and then storage account URL, SAS URL, and you can copy it. rsync is basically used in Linux. Robocopy is in Windows, just to copy the data from the drives and local to this, not from the storage account. So the azcopy is the answer to this question. Question number 23. What is the default number of days to retain deleted blob when creating the storage account? So if you are familiar with creating a storage account, you can see that you can delete the soft delete for blobs. So when you delete blobs, it will automatically retain for 7 days and you can recover it from 7 days. You can increase, but default is 7 days, but you can increase to 30 days or 20 days or whatever days you want to. But by default, the question is by default, it is 7 days. And answer to this question is 7. Question number 24. Dash enables you to scale to thousands of virtual machines for high performance computing and large scale parallel jobs. The key word here is high performance computing and large scale parallel jobs. Okay, so when you see in a parallel jobs, it is an Azure batch job. You can see the rationale behind here. Azure batch allow you to scale thousands of virtual machines for high performance computing. So HPC and large scale parallel job. If you see that large scale parallel jobs, the answer to the question is Azure batch. Okay. Next question is question number 25. You want to create a model to predict sales of ice cream based on historic data that includes daily ice cream sales and weather measurements. Which Azure service should you use? So you just want to know like a daily ice cream, how many daily ice cream sales is happening because of the weather, like a historic data. So what's the answer to this question? So options are Azure machine learning, Azure bot, and language. So the answer to the question is Azure machine learning. The question number 26. You are designing an AI, artificial intelligence application, that uses images to detect cracks in a car windshield and warn drivers when a windshield should be repaired or replaced. What AI, artificial intelligence workload, is described here? Wow. The answer to the question is computer vision. So computer vision is the one you can just say you have a crack in your windshield and you can detect it. It uses the camera to computer vision. So it uses the camera to capture that and it will let you know. That's like artificial intelligence. So answer to this question is computer vision. Question number 27. How can you prevent non-compliant resources being created without having to manually evaluate each resource as it is created? So answer and options to this are Azure Monitor, Azure Policy, Azure Tags. So the answer to the question is Azure Policy. So Azure Policy is the when you can actually want to do like a whole subscription, or you cannot create a virtual machine on a UK South region, or maybe China region, or only allowed in United States region, or maybe only in South Central or Central US region. So that's all possibly we want to do. Instead of doing it each resources, you can just apply a policy, Azure Policy, and it will actually prevent from anyone creating that non-compliant VMs or something like that. So Azure Policy is the answer. Next question, question number 28. Company A wants to reduce the cost in their subscription. Several deployed VMs are stopped after workhours to reduce the cost. When virtual machines are stopped, companies still pay for the cost of the storage. Okay, very good. That you wanted to just everybody go home at 5 p.m. after office hours. The administrator just shut down the VMs. Is that good enough? All the cost is reduced, or even though it is stopped, the VMs are stopped. You need to still pay for the cost of the storage? The answer to this question is yes. You still need to pay for the cost of the storage. The next question is question number 29. Dash alerts you when service issue occur in an Azure environment, such as a regional Azure outage that affects all Azure customers. All Azure customers, not just your company, every customer, something happened. How do you get an alert? Though the options are Azure Monitor, Azure Advisor, Azure Service Health, Azure Application Insight. So answer is C, Azure Service Health. Like a regional outage or some service is not available. So Azure Service Health is the answer. Next question is question number 30. Dash copies data to a secondary region from the primary region across multiple data centers that are located many miles apart. Dash copies data to secondary region from the primary region across multiple data centers that are located in many miles apart. So it's talking about the storage account. What kind of redundancy you are looking for? Premium storage, that's like a disk storage. That's like a virtual machine and disk. But storage account is the question to answer, right? So there's a LRS, ZRS, and GRS. One question is sure from this. Please make sure this is very clear. So geo redundant storage, GRS, geo means geographic location. So primary region across multiple data center. So geo redundant storage replicates to a secondary region. So if you say in the same region, then it is the zone redundant storage. It is saying geo redundant storage means secondary region. So let's say if you have the south central, then south central it will be north central. So then it is actually GRS is required. So answer to this question is GRS. The next question is question number 31. So match the services on the left to the correct description on the right. So A, authorization, B, authentication. So authorization is actually grants the proper access to a legitimate user. It's like authorization is what kind of access you require. Authentication is like confirm who you are. Are you the right person to come into my house, like to get into my house? And once you get into my house, what kind of access you have? Are you able to go to my bedroom, or are you able to just use my just the living area? So it just depends upon what kind of access. That's the authorization. So it's clearly saying authorization is the process of establishing what level of access a legitimate user or service can have. So it's a grant proper access is the authorization. Authentication is to confirm the identity of the person. Okay, so A is 2, authorization grants proper access. Authentication is to confirm the identity of the person. So A2 and B1. That's the right answer. Moving into the next question, question number 32. What type of cloud service type would a finance and expense tracking solution typically be in? So there are 3 models, IaaS, PaaS and SaaS. Let's see what's the answer to this question. SaaS. So software as a service is the type of service they use for finance and expense tracking. Moving into the next question, question number 33. What is the best method to estimate the cost of migrating the cloud while incurring minimal cost? So it's asking how to estimate the cost if you want to migrate on-prem servers to or application to the cloud. So the migrate a small sample and to see whether how much it takes. And use a total cost of ownership calculator to estimate the expected cost. Migrate to the cloud, but track usage closely using tags to rapidly understand the cost. There are 3 options. What is the best options to? Let's see the answer. The answer to the question is use the total cost of ownership calculator. Estimate the expected cost. You can use the pricing calculator, and you can use the total cost of ownership calculator to estimate the expected cost. If you do a small migration, if you have a big project and small, it doesn't give you full how much is the exact cost. And if you migrate it and then you track with the tags, and that's later on, not before that, right? So if you want to get an estimate, you need to use the total cost of ownership calculator. Moving to next question, question number 34. Is advisor give recommendation about predictability? Yes or no? So we can see that advisor give you like a 5 category recommendation. Reliability, formally it is called high availability. And security, it will give you a security recommendation. Performance, it will give you the performance recommendation. Cost, it will also give you a cost recommendation and operational excellence. So the predictability is not inside this one of the 5 categories. So the answer to this question is no. So advisor recommendation and predictability is not one of the category. So answer is no. Moving into the next question, question number 35. Can subscription have multiple account administrator? Yes or no? So it's asking can have a multiple account administrator. So you can see the account administrator 1 per Azure account. So you can just have only 1 because the account administrator is the one actually deploy subscribing the subscription. That is the actual account. That's only 1 person can have. So the billing owner, who is the credit card and everything, so that's only 1 account administrator. Service administrator also 1 per Azure subscription. So the 1 per Azure account, and co-administrator you can have so many co-administrator, 200 per subscription. Answer to this question is no. And moving into the next question, question number 36. Which of the following give information about service issues, planned maintenance or other changes may affect the Azure services and region you use? Azure Monitor, Azure Security Center, Azure Service Health and Service Bus. Answer to this question is Service Health. If you have any issues with Azure services or Azure region that affect everyone, all the companies are using Azure, then Azure Service Health will give you the information about any Azure service issues and any region that's affecting any issues. So I'm in the question number 37. Can we enforce tagging using Azure policy? So you can see you can use Azure policies to enforce tagging rules and convention. So the answer to this question is yes. We can use the Azure policy to enforce tagging. For we can say that all these resources you're going to create, you should have tag. Otherwise, you cannot create the resources. Moving on to the next question, question number 38. Azure Network Administrator deployed a virtual machine VM1 into virtual network VNet A. Administrator wants to change the way traffic is routed in VNet A to outside network to override Azure default routes. Which of the following that you like to accomplish this? So the options are network security group, application security group, DNS, and UDR. It's talking about routes. The default routing is enabled between the Azure backbone network. So you wanted to override that default route to go to a outside or somewhere. If you have an appliance, let's say we have a network appliance, you need to divert that from the VNet to go to that appliance, so that firewall appliance. So that's where you can control all the traffic going through outside network. So basically, answer to this question will be UDR, for user defined routes. So you have to define a route saying that all this subnet, all this network /24 or /16, all this network has to go to a different appliance outside. So that's where it is. So remember, by default, it will go to the Azure backbone network. If you want to change to an Azure firewall appliance or Palo Alto or like Meraki appliance or anything outside, you want to control all the traffic goes through that firewall appliance, you need to use user defined route, UDR. Okay, moving into the next question, question number 39. Match the services on the left to the correct description on the right. So infrastructure as a service, what it is, and platform as a service, software as a service. So you need to select the infrastructure as a service. That's actually a virtual machine, server, virtual machine, storage, network. So that will be A3. And platform as a service, it's B2. So provides a fully managed environment, developing, testing, delivering, managed cloud-based application. So you can see software as a service that provides a hosting, management, and application in underlying infrastructure, as well as any maintenance. So you don't need to worry about SaaS means no maintenance at all. Everything will be handled by Microsoft, just like Office 365 application. All right, so going to the next question, question number 40. Administrator wants to implement MFA multi-factor authentication in their subscription and an AzureAD tenant. Is it possible to use a secondary authentication as a SMS for a user? Secondary authentication for an SMS for an user. So SMS is actually, you can see from the screenshot, I put a screenshot together here. It's actually, you can see it in the one of the, if you go multi-factor, you can go and Azure Learning. It actually, the documentation says SMS is primary authentication only, and secondary authentication is for MFA and SSPR is SMS. So voice call, you cannot have a primary authentication. Okay, so SMS is allowed as a primary authentication, but it's asking SMS is possible to use a secondary authentication. So secondary authentication, SMS is not, is there here. You see secondary authentication is nothing. SMS is not listed here. So answer this question, obviously no. So you cannot have the secondary authentication as a SMS option. Okay, and if they ask you questions like in the voice call, can you use a primary authentication? Answer is no. So this one question is sure from his. Okay, going to this next question, question number 41. What is the free credits in dollars when you sign up Azure Cloud free trial? This question is very obvious, because if you are already used an Azure trial, free trial, and you know how much free credit you're going to get it. And I guess you got the right answer. Let's check what is the right answer. It's $200. So you'll get a $200 for 30 days to use it. Any services you want. There is no restriction. So answer to that, how many dollars you can use? $200. Going to the next question. Question number 42. Where will the administrator find recommendations about reducing cost in subscription? And previously we have seen another questions like this. Where we can see the recommendation. Okay. So Azure Advisor, Monitor, Service Health, and Security Center. So I guess you might have already got the answer. The answer to this question is Azure Advisor. So Azure Advisor gives you a recommendation about cost and the high availability, security, etc. So you have seen that. Remember that what all things can a recommendation gives by Azure Advisor. And moving on to next question. Question number 43. Database administrator deployed a Azure SQL database in Azure. Can administrator has full control over underlying server? So Azure SQL is the PaaS, and it running is Azure SQL database. It's not on a server. So do you get an administrator get a full control over underlying server? The answer to this question is no. You don't. If you're running as a SQL, if you have a virtual machine and then SQL installed as a SQL virtual machine server, then you have a control over the underlying server. In case of Azure SQL database, you don't have any control over. So answer to this question is no. Moving on to next question. Question number 44. What is the default retention period for Azure Activity Log? Is it 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or 100 days? So the default retention period Azure Activity Log is 90 days. 90 days is answer. If you want to keep more than 90 days, you need to move to a login analytics workspace and you can query from there, or you can keep it in a storage account. But basically by default, Azure Activity Logs are kept for 90 days. Moving into next question, question number 45. What are not the statuses of Azure Virtual Machine state? So virtual machine, we can actually stop it, we can start it, we can create it. And what are the status? So running is a status, deleted is a status, deallocating is a status, creating deallocated. So what is the option? Deleted. So if you delete a virtual machine, it is gone. Right? Remember that, right? If you delete a virtual machine, it is gone. And you cannot see that's a status. How can you find a status of something is not there? So once you delete the virtual machine, it's gone from your portal, Azure portal, it's completely deleted. You cannot see any status. So deleted is not a status. Running is a status. Once you start, it will running. Deallocating is a status. Once you shut down, it will deallocate the disk, everything. Creating is a status. Once you start creating, deploying a virtual machine, it will be creating. Deallocated means stopped, completely stopped, deallocated. So deleted is not the answer. And you can go and see the states billing. I can put a link also on the down below. Moving on to the next question. Question number 46. Can Azure Advisor itself provide security recommendation? Here the keyword is Advisor itself. But if you look at the what all things Advisor can give, it can give security recommendation. Yes. I put a screenshot below. You can see Azure Advisor provides you with a consistent consolidated view of recommendation of Azure. It interacts with the security recommendation. But it's actually itself it cannot give. It is actually integrated with the Microsoft Defender for Cloud to bring you the security recommendation. So it is a very tricky question. You can get a security recommendation, but it cannot work together. It has to work together with the Microsoft Defender for Cloud to get you that security recommendation. So if there's a question like can Advisor itself provides, can Azure Advisor alone provide a security recommendation? Answer is no. It has to work with the Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Moving on to next question, question number 47. Company A decided to migrate their critical on-premise application to Azure service. Which of the following terms better describe the solution that ensure no downtime for the application, even if a single data center goes down. So the keyword is that single data center goes down. So what is the term is used to describe this situation? Is it a fault tolerance, elasticity, bandwidth, or scalability? I guess you guys are already understood. The fault tolerance is the answer to this question. So question number 48. Company A wanted to implement a solution for collecting, analyzing, and acting on telemetry from your cloud on on-premises as well. What service below will suit this requirement? So the keyword here is collecting, analyzing, and acting on telemetry. Azure Advisor, Monitor, Message Bus, and Service Health. So Azure Monitor is the answer. So Azure Monitor, remember, Azure Monitor can implement a solution collecting and analyzing and acting on telemetry from cloud as well as an on-prem. So moving on to next question is number 14. Question number 49. Company A has a IaaS, Internet Information Service, running on a web application on port 443. Users should access application over internet, and you propose a solution to modify the DDoS protection plan. Does this solve this issue? So just a DDoS is a distributed denial of service attack, protection from that. So basically the malicious actor, malicious cyber hackers try to get into the firewall appliances, routers, etc. And if you modify that, will it allow it to access the application over the internet? No, this is just a port 443. You just need to open a port in the NSG network. If it's a virtual machine, and then you have to use the NSG network security group to allow all the users to connect to that, or use a firewall. Firewall will be blocking it. You need to open it. So this is not the answer. So answer this question is no. Moving into next question. Question number 50. Congratulations if you have reached this so far. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you think that this is useful, and if you put us a comment if you passed the exam. Company A has a IaaS, Internet Information Service, running on a web application port 443. Users should access the application over the internet, and you propose a solution to modify the Azure firewall. Does this solve this issue? Yes. Firewall is the one actually block the ports traffic. So if you say that's answer yes, that's your correct. Moving on to next question is question number 51. Is Azure a DNS support DNSSEC? So I put a screenshot below. What is DNSSEC? Azure DNS does not currently support DNSSEC. In most cases, you can reduce the need for DNSs by consistently using HTTPS TLS in your application. So currently it doesn't support. So answer this question is no. So little bit about DNSSEC. DNSSEC stands for DNS name. DNS is domain name system. DNS that's actually IP address to host name resolving. So there is some queries. If you go to IP address, actually that is IP address is the actual protocol used. And then a DNS name is like a website name, www.google.com. So google.com, if you try to access google.com, it actually resolves into an IP address behind the scene. So these queries, DNS queries, want to be DNSSEC actually is supporting is like it will add some of the cryptographic signatures to the DNS queries, and it will try to become secure. So current Azure DNS does not support that. So DNSSEC stands for Domain Name System Security Extensions. So it's a more secure way to do a DNS query. And currently Azure DNS does not support. Future it might. But currently you need to put the answer to no to this question. Going to the next question, question number 52. The same question, company A has the IaaS, Internet Information Service, running on a web application port 443. Users should access the application over internet, and you propose a solution to modify the traffic manager profile. Does this resolve the issue? Yeah, definitely not. Traffic manager is the one, it works on the DNS, but it is kind of a redundancy, right? So with the kind of a load balancing kind of. Traffic manager is a load balancer. It doesn't allow to open a port on 443. So the answer to this question is no. Going to the next question. Question number 53. Match the following from left to right. So there are 4 questions in this, and you need to select what is in the left is to right. So I'll let you the questions. In the actual exam, it will be like in the, you can actually drag and drop. You'll see that questions will be drag and drop. So you can just drag correctly into the left. So just go into these questions, right? Dedicated bandwidth of 100 Gbps between on-prem to Azure. So dedicated bandwidth from on-prem, from your local office to Azure network, what it is. You might have got some idea if you have, okay? Syncing users and computers from on-prem to cloud. You know, what tool is to sync users and computers from on-prem to cloud. Protect cloud and on-prem sources and services from security vulnerabilities. All right. Connect on-prem network to Azure VNet and send encrypted traffic between them. Okay. So it will be more clear once you have those questions, you can just drag and drop. So let's see what is the dedicated bandwidth of 100 Gbps between on-prem to Azure. So answer is express route. Dedicated bandwidth from on-prem to Azure is express route. It is a dedicated one. No other traffic can go through. It is not an internet connection. All right. The next question is syncing users from computers, users, groups, computers, everything from on-prem AD to cloud, AD Connect. And the third question is protect cloud and on-prem resources and services from security vulnerabilities. Always security comes up is the Microsoft Defender for Cloud. As you have seen previously that the security recommendation come from the Azure Advisor, but the Azure Advisor does not give you security recommendation alone by itself. It will work with integrate with Microsoft Defender for Cloud, and it will give you a security recommendation. So how to protect? It is actually protection is happening in the Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Connect on-prem network to Azure VNet and send encrypted traffic between them. How can you send encrypted traffic between them? So answer to the question is VPN, Azure VPN. So VPN is a virtual private network. So basically what it does is it actually allow you to use the internet, and it use a tunnel. And the internet is a big bandwidth, right? It's a big circuit. Think about it, the internet as a big circuit. But when you send a data between them, it has to be secure, because anybody can capture the packet and then get the password and then PIE or sensitive data. So what it does is it do an encryption. When you use a VPN, you send an encrypted data between them. So always, if you want to on-prem it's called a site-to-site VPN, or you can a point-to-site VPN. Whatever VPN is encrypted traffic between them. Okay. Hope you get this understanding correctly. Moving on to next question, question number 54. This question is multiple times asked in the exam. You are using a Azure free account and select all that not true to free account. So this question is asked is very easy questions to remember. Always the free account is $200 free credit, and with that credit you can use for 1 month. You can use for 1 month, 1 month only at $200. If you are not using for $200 after 30 days, no, you cannot use that. So answer this to question is clearly, and his answer to the question is first one, $200 free credit to use after 30 days. See, it is a negative question. Think about that. Select all that not true to the free account. Always remember, don't try to judge the question very fast. It is not true. Okay. So it's not true. And also remember, not true, it is saying after 30 days. If you don't clearly read this, use 30 days. You see 30 days here? Oh, yeah. Then you'll say, no, it's actually after 30 days. So remember that each, questions you read carefully, and so that you can answer. And also you finish your exam, just double check the answers one more time. So that's where you can just get a second look at it one more time. So going into next question, question number 55. Is Azure Advisor gives recommendation about virtual machine backup? So you can see I put a screenshot below. Protect your virtual machine data from accidental deletion. Azure Advisor identifies virtual machines where backup is not enabled and recommends enabling the backup. So yes, Azure Advisor gives the backup recommendation as well. Cost, backup, security, etc. It doesn't give predictability, but it gives the highly availability. So think about all these questions can come in the exam, certification exam. So answer yes. If the backup is not run, it can give a recommendation. So remember that. Going to the next question, question number 56. Company A has to clean up the unused resources in Azure as part of their effort to reduce cost in Azure subscription. So you are the Azure administrator, your manager coming to say that you go ahead and clean up the unused users. You're going to find out who is not using what. And then you need to say, the question is, you are going to delete some unused users and groups from AzureAD. Would this save any cost? Would this accomplish this requirement? Yes or no? Users and groups. No, it doesn't save you any cost. See, answer to the question, the public IP address costs you. So basically when you deploy a virtual machine and then it is not used, you shut down the virtual machine and you delete the virtual machine, you don't delete automatically the IP address. The public IP address will be there and it will cost you a lot of money and it is unused. So you need to go in there and you can delete the public IP address, then you will save money. Users and groups, if you delete in AzureAD, doesn't matter. AzureAD has thousands of users. You delete one or two users, they retired and they resign from the company, and then you delete. You aren't going to save any money. So the answer is public IP address. So answer to this question is doesn't require, is no. So moving on to next question, question number 57. Company A has a Azure subscription and Azure tenant. Where do they have to go to create users and groups for AzureAD tenant? So you just a company started the subscription, AzureAD tenant is there, and where you actually create users and groups for AzureAD tenant? Advisor? No. Service bus, Azure Active Directory, cost management and billing. No. Answer to the question, I think you got it right. The answer will be Azure Active Directory. That's the Azure identity management for wherever you create users, groups, and everything. There will be Azure Active Directory. And going into next question, question number 58. Company A has a Azure subscription and resource group named RG1. RG1 has a multiple resources such as storage account and virtual machine, etc. So one resource group, it has got a multiple resources. If an Azure administrator delete resource group RG1, would the old resources in that RG1 also get deleted? So basically you are reading a resource group, all the resources underneath that resource group 1 also will get deleted. If you have already tried, you can just try to just create a resource group and some resources inside and then try to delete it. Yes, it's automatically just, that's the best way to do, is that you just create a project, right? A POC, proof of concept project, and that's just a testing project, and you're creating a storage account, service bus, and bunch of virtual machines inside that, and then you want to do just finish, and you think that that proof of concept is finished, and then you just delete the resource group, everything will be deleted. Okay, so moving on to next question, question number 59. Company A has Azure subscription and resource group named RG1. RG1 has multiple resources such as storage account and virtual machine. Is it true that only resources in the resource group are able to access the other resources in the same resource group? So can a resource group, some resources in their RG2, a different resource group can access a resource in the RG1? No, I mean, it's not like that. Anybody in the subscription can access. So answer to the question is no. Anybody from the storage account is RG2 and virtual machine is RG2. Both can communicate if there is no issue. It doesn't mean to have the same resource group. So this complete the certification questions and answers part 1. It will be a total of 300 questions. You can see that I have prepared a lot of questions. Now itself it is a 1 hour video. So I spend a lot of time preparing these questions, and if you seeing it's useful, please like and subscribe, and thank you very much.